Lesson number 4, burnout. Again, we're talking about mental health, so burnout is in there. Burnout is pervasive. What do we mean by that? Well, I'll talk a little bit about it, but I want to talk about kind of what leads up to this. I have these things that I call cool or back to school. So here's the equation. What do you think? What would the equation be? Anybody want to take a chance, take a risk? There we go. Yeah, high demand, low control equals high stress. And not something that is kind of rocket science, but I want you to think about that. Are your teams working in situations of high demand, low control? Are they being told what to do and how to do it? Trying to get things done, trying to kind of keep up with things. We know that anybody who's working in that kind of a situation is at risk for stress. It's kind of like the I Love Lucy. How many of you have watched I Love Lucy? I love Lucy. Great. But it's like the chocolates, the wrapping of the chocolates. First, hey, this is not so bad, but then they start to get up to speed and it goes faster and faster and they can't keep up. That's what high demand, low control looks like. And so many people feel like they're trapped on this kind of spinning wheel and they can't get their feet underneath them. Again, a recipe for high stress. Here's the next one. What do you think? Same kind of thing, right? High effort, low reward equals high stress. So again, are they working in a situation where there is a lot of physical effort, a lot of mental effort, and not a lot of reward? The pleases, the thank yous, the appreciation for their time, their energy, their effort. One of the things that we noticed at the beginning of the pandemic was that actually this wasn't what we thought it was going to be. And the reason that the stress levels were a little bit lower at the beginning of the pandemic than what we thought was for this equation. Because at the beginning of the pandemic, you as leaders, you stepped up. People were saying thanks. They were saying please. They were appreciative of the fact that people were making the adjustments and trying to collaborate and make things work in the very best way they could. We had signs on the front lawn that said thanks to all of our frontline workers, right? And then we got tired out. We got worn out. We became more pessimistic. We got angry. We got frustrated. And we're back into that situation of high effort, low reward equaling high stress. As leaders, one of the things that you have absolute impact on is that sense of reward, respect, and appreciation. So, again, are you saying the pleases, the thank yous? How are you recognizing your team? How are you celebrating together? Those things matter when it comes to burnout. We know that anybody working in either of those situations of high demand, low control, high effort, low reward are at 2 to 3 times the risk for mental health issues. We talk about burnout. Burnout is about losing your fire, losing that spark. It's that sense of frustration and fatigue and overwhelm. It's one of the words that's used with burnout is the word futility. Like, why bother? What difference is it going to make? That's what we're talking about when we talk about burnout. So it's not just about being stressed. It's about to the point where it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. That sense of cynicism that goes with it. Different signs and symptoms. If you want this, it's in your handout. So make sure you do download the handout. You can use the QR code. It'll take you to where this infographic is located on my website. You can download it. You can share it. You can print it off. You can use it as a reminder. So again, you can grab the QR code or you can grab it from your handout. But understanding what are some of the signs and symptoms. Do you know your teams well enough to know how are they dealing with this stuff? For many of us, we've felt this way at some point. Are we experiencing burnout? Maybe we're just experiencing stress, but maybe if we're experiencing enough of these, we know that the rates of burnout have increased by 15% since the beginning of the pandemic. 79% of people are experiencing some of the symptoms of burnout. 40% are experiencing major burnout. 40%. People are tired out, worn out. It doesn't matter anymore. Let's see. I went too quick, but I'll leave it for a second. I'm just going to say, when it comes to burnout, one of the things as leaders that we need to focus in on then are micro-experiences. Micro-experiences help to combat that sense of burnout. Those are the celebrations. The celebrations, the milestones, the happy birthdays, the anniversaries. it's been really interesting. What do you think of when you think of the word health? So if you're online, I want you to type in the chat box. What image comes to mind? What definition comes to mind? What do you think of when you think of the word health? For those of you that are in the room, what image comes to mind? What definition comes to mind? What do you think of when you think of that word health? Anybody want to share? Physical, yeah. How I'm physically feeling. Somebody else I heard whispered or said sleep. You said sleep? Good, all right. What else comes to mind when you think of health? I heard 3 things at once. I'm going to start with you. The vitals, like, yeah, my blood pressure okay, my cholesterol okay, my sugar's okay, all of those kinds of things. And then somebody here said something. Nutrition. Yeah, I often think of an apple when I think of health, right? Or a stethoscope that goes with that. Attitude. Good. A healthy attitude. Now, what do we have online? What are some of the comments online?
Energy, positivity.
Good.
Health is wealth.
Health is wealth. Good, because if we lose it, definitely an impact.
Somebody jumping in joy.
Jumping in joy. Good. That's a good image.
Eating better.
Eating better.
And peace.
And peace. Awesome. Those are great. One right here. Yeah.
I'm looking at like a holistic thing.
Okay.
Everything.
All of these things together, physical, mental, spiritual, financial, all of these kind of components when it comes to health. I think all of those things. You know, for me, when I think of health, like I said, I think of a stethoscope as one, mental health, because that's what I'm really involved in. So I think often of depression, burnout, those, I kind of go to the illness side when we talk about health. I love this definition. This definition is from Dr. Wheel. And Dr. Wheel says essentially that health is being able to live your life without feeling overwhelmed. Health is being able to do the things that you want to do in the way that you want to do them without feeling like you're behind the 8 ball, without feeling like you can't handle the things that are coming. And so I like that, kind of going with what you were saying, is that it's this whole piece. It's not necessarily about the absence of illness. It's not necessarily about physical over mental. It's about all of these things. Am I able to do the things that I want to do in the way that I want to do them without feeling overwhelmed? So what do you think? What do you think about resilience? Again, if you're online, let me know what image comes to mind, what definition comes to mind. What do you think of when you think of the word resilience? Again, in my audience, what do you think? Strong mind, good. What else comes to mind when you think of resilience? Flexibility, good. Thriving, that's a great word. Adapting, good. Coping. Anybody have an image that comes to mind when you think of resilience? Yoga, yeah, somebody, doing kind of the home, okay, that'll work. What about online?
There are quite a bunch here, but I've got bounce back potential.
Good.
Flexibility. Elasticity.
Bouncing, elastic, flexibility. Over here. Mindfulness, good. Anybody think of like a willow tree where it bends, doesn't break, that kind of an image? One of the images that I think of is the super balls. How many of you played with those super balls when you were in public school? You know, those little wee hard rubber balls, the kind that you'd throw up against a brick wall and then you'd spend the entire recess chasing these things around? Yeah, for me, that's resiliency. Because it doesn't matter how hard you hit the wall, you take that energy and you're able to move forward. Now, you may not be on the same path that you thought you were going to be on. But it is about taking that energy and moving forward. And so when we talk about resiliency, we sometimes forget that we have the skills to be resilient. We've developed them from the get-go. How many of you have watched a little one taking their first steps, right? They take those first steps, they usually fall down, they usually bonk their head on the coffee table, end up with a great big goose egg. They're crying and they're laughing and they're taking the steps all at the same time, right? That's resiliency. They don't give up. And so we need to, as leaders, we need to encourage that resiliency. We need to be the cheerleader.
Here's a really interesting one. Assertive without feeling judged, but still professional. And someone else said a hamster wheel.
A hamster wheel. That's an interesting one of just going. I'm not sure. That might be anti-resiliency. I'm not sure about that one. That's an interesting thought with that one.
And being able to stand up even when you hit a wall.
Yeah. Even being able to kind of thrive in the midst of the change, the chaos, and the challenges that we're facing. When we talk about resiliency, and when we talk about health, it's not to overcome. I think sometimes as leaders we get stuck in going, we need to be resilient in this situation. But it's not resiliency for a moment in time. It's resiliency built to live a full and flourishing life, whatever that looks like for you. And so it is about all of the skills. It's about all of the tools in our tool belt, being able to pull them out regardless of the situation, pulling out the right ones that are going to be able to help us to get through. So let's tie all of these together. Positive mental health then. Positive mental health is, it's being able to bring your talents to the table. So think about your teams. Are they able to bring the best of themselves to the workplace? Are they able to handle the normal stressors? Now, I know the last 2 years has been anything but normal. But are they able to handle those normal stressors? Do they have the tools in their tool belt to be able to handle those stressors? Are they doing so in such a way that they feel productive? One of the things people are saying right now is it's taking me so much longer to get things done. Anybody kind of feel that way? Like the simple things, the things that I used to do, no problem, they're taking me longer. And so they're struggling a little bit with this piece. And they're doing so in a way that they're not overwhelmed by the responsibilities. Now, when it comes to resiliency and when it comes to mental health, you may have seen this from the Canadian Mental Health Association or the Mental Health Commission of Canada. I like this continuum, and I like this continuum because not only does it give you that scale from, in crisis all the way up to excelling, but it also lets you know some of the words, the behaviors, the actions associated with it. And so looking, where would you be? Where have you been over the last 2 weeks? Any of you hit all 5 of those? Any of you hit all 5 of those in any given day? Yeah. There's days when I wake up and I go, I got this. This is going to be a good day. And then technology, because technology is usually the bane of my existence. Something happens, something falls down, something goes wrong, something doesn't work the way it's supposed to. And I'm like, just piss off. I've had enough. I want it to stop, right? And so I don't get worried when somebody is going through the different stages. It's okay to hit the 5 different stages. When I get concerned is when I see somebody who's at the bottom end for far too long. They're not able to bounce. They're not able to see the good. They're not able to feel that sense of collaboration, that sense of reward, that sense of recognition. They feel like they're stuck at the bottom end. They're unable to perform. They're feeling isolated. They have nothing else left to give. And so as a leader, recognizing where your team is at any given moment.